Good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for coming in for our technical session this morning. My name is Nala Williams. I'm the Dallas chapter president for CI for the Construction Institute. So thank you for joining our track this morning. I'm owner of Golden Main Consulting, and I also do a lot with the Texas section and ASC National. So thank you guys for joining me today. We have our speaker, Logan Ortiz, and he's a professional civil engineer with over 14 years of experience. His experience includes project management, construction administration, and civil engineering services associated with railroad, transportation, roadway, drainage design, and permitting. Additionally, Logan has been involved with oversight of design services, construction management, owner's representative roles, and long-range planning strategies. Logan's breadth of experience includes management and design services for heavy industrial rail facilities, which include site development, grading, drainage, environmental, stormwater pollution prevention, permitting, design, and engineering of each system. So please give Logan your attention. We'll enjoy this presentation, and then I'll do a closing as well, and I'll give you the floor.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the introduction. How's everybody doing today? I have the crowd. I like it. Good response. Okay. You don't always get that, just FYI, especially with engineers. So my name is Logan Ortiz. I'm going to be taking you through a project of ours called Manic Site. Halfway through the presentation, when I go through the experience slide, I'm going to talk to you about some of the construction associated with the smaller project, but it's going to bleed right into what we're doing on this site. That's why I want to do it that way. But first, I want to ask you guys: Have you guys ever heard that quote down there at the bottom? Luck is when preparation meets success. No, it's from a podcast from Matthew McConaughey. Don't quote me on this. Don't hate me for it. Matthew McConaughey does a lot of podcasts. At the end of the day, there's a couple different things that I like to pull out. This is one of them. A lot of people tell me, Logan, you got real lucky. Logan, you're super lucky. Logan, you've got a great family. You've got a nice house. You got a nice this. You got a nice that. But at the end of the day, what they don't see is the preparation. So what I'm going to take you through on this presentation today is the preparation associated with what the success is going to generate. Okay. So today we're going to talk about meet the team, my team, project organization chart, site overview, preliminary site layout, experience, economics, and closing comments. The economics, some of these I'll go pretty quick through. If you guys have questions associated with them, feel free to come talk to me. I'd love to answer some questions if you have them. With regard to the team, you just heard my intro. I appreciate that. I've got Rudy Qualls. He's a forensic auditor for Intuit. He's a CPA. He essentially handles all things finance for us. Brock Qualls, he's one of the best business development personnel I've ever met. Man will get in the car, drive for 8 hours. Every industry he sees, he'll stop and just shake hands. I've never seen somebody do it that way, but he's very good at it. Tim is one of our drone pilots. What I found with the surveying side is we typically hear from the surveyors, oh, we're 3, 4, 5 weeks out. Unfortunately, as a civil engineer, those that are in that are civils, you know that you're only as good as the data you receive, right? And so what we decided to do was I still need the surveyors for the boundaries, still need the surveyors for all the legal descriptions. What I don't need the surveyors for right now are the existing topography data, right? I can fly LiDAR, pull that information and cross-check it at a later time. And then Scott's a third generation railroader. He's built several short lines. And so his experience will come in handy later in this presentation, but very experienced in the rail side. I built my career on the backbone of rail. So I've done single family, multifamily, retail, commercial, industrial. Industrial is where I found my safe space. That's my happy place. This is the cool part about this one is I spent about 2 years of my life on this property trying to get this off the ground. We initially started this one as a carbon sequestration site. There's a large plastic manufacturer adjacent to us. They produce a lot of carbon. There's a broker out of Florida that reached out to me and said, hey, I know you've got a civil background. I really want to get your take on this. And I really want to know if this is something that you'd be interested in. When he sent me the location, I saw the rail. And so I immediately thought, okay, we can put a rail operation here. We can generate multiple streams of revenue. Yes, I'm interested. So what I did is I went in and created a master plan. I worked with the landowner and we started tailoring this towards rail operations with carbon sequestration. We were going to have a batch plant on site. We were going to take the carbon, we're going to put it into the concrete and push it out. Those that know carbon sequestration, really cool process. I know nothing about it. That was his thing, not mine. It didn't work. It wasn't enough volume. So that's why it didn't work. And so he ended up backing out. He was heavily predicated on the bond market with his capital stack. So he backed out because he ran out of money. The bond market, for those that don't know, back in, I want to say, don't quote me on this, March of 23, bond market tanked. And so there was no way to pull out the funds necessary to do what I'm getting ready to show you with what he was looking to do. So he bowed out. He said, I'm out. I stayed in touch with the landowner for about 6 months. She reached out and said, hey, if you want it, I want you to bring what you had here. And so that's where this culminated from. What I realized is as I go throughout my career, as I've gone throughout my career, I'll build these different steps, but I don't own these different steps. And so what happens is I go build the customer base at risk, right? But then when I bring somebody in on the operations side, they take advantage of that. I get nothing out of it. I got real tired of that. And so I was like, okay, on this one, because I'm already at risk, I have a landowner on my side. I'm a part owner in everything you see on that, on the design, build, and operations. I did that intentionally. Now those customers are now my customers. I have the right to share this. I have the right to communicate whatever I want to communicate because I'm majority owner in all of that. So I'm a civil engineer, right? So I own lead services. I'm a civil engineer by trade. Been doing this for about 7 years. Different markets, like I mentioned. I opened the GC companies. Next, I owned 2 GC companies, one vertical, one horizontal. That was for liability purposes. Then I opened the development company. Once I opened the development company, everything else just funneled back out. With this site, the reason why we have domestic trade terminals here is because we're going to take this site that I'm getting ready to show you towards a 50-year life cycle. We're going to turn it into something that the economy really needs. And so that's why we put this intermediate step here. And that's why yes, it is about railroad, but at the end of the day, that domestic trade terminal, especially with where the economy's at, with what society is pushing, it's going to be a good one. This is the site. It's a 900-acre property. As you can see right here, that's already been mined. There's about 15-foot depth that they've come in and extracted material from. They ran tests back in the late 80s. They essentially extracted that material to pay for college. So grandfather said, hey, you want to go get a college degree? I don't want to pay for it. We're going to sell this material for it. As soon as the 2 daughters graduated, they stopped mining. So that's why I'm extremely confident in what we have here. There are what's considered a shear wall on 3 different walls. And you can see the makeup of this material that matches the 2 geotechs we have on this property. This is the site overview is one of the reasons why I'm most intrigued with this property. We can look at this a bunch of different ways. As you guys see this, you see the utilities are there. Most people in this room, you guys understand what you're looking at. I'm not going to go too deep into depth with regard to the utilities. There's a lot of benefit there. What I'm going to talk to you about is the sand and gravel, 30 to 40 million metric tons of sand and gravel. On top of that, a lot of it has a high silica content. I've got some of them here. You don't find silica that's this big very often, right? And so I've got some rocks up here for geologists in the room, for people that care about this. You're welcome to come look at it. Very excited for what's here. Very excited for what we have out on this property. This property took me 2 years because I initially looked at it as a rail-centric operation. I didn't look at the aggregates as the catalyst. But I knew that the aggregates were a customer of the rail. So I knew I had to always have the aggregates and use it to our advantage. Once I found out this piece right here, 30, 40 million metric tons, that's a game changer. I went out and I switched my pitch up. I went to our customers. Instead of going to the rail, I went to the aggregate side. And I pulled a letter of intent that somebody wants 5 million tons of aggregates per year for the next 5 years. 25 million metric tons already purchase agreement comes in today. And so that right there is how we're going to pay for this, everything you're seeing. This is some of the site data. This is one of the bore pits, as you can see. So you can see some of the material, right? And then you guys know what you're looking at there. Here's our gradation chart. Again, you can see the bigger stones up there. That's what I care a lot about. What we're under contract for is essentially road base. So these smaller 1 3/4 minus. That's what we're under contract for. So all these big ones right here, we're going to move those to the side. We're going to sell these separate. And so that's another stream of revenue. A lot of times what we're going to do, we're going to take a rock crusher out there. We're going to deal directly with the Vulcans, the Martin Marietas of the world. And we're going to sell that directly to them because that's what they need. I'm going to go this slide first. So typically when I look at a property, I come in and I create a master plan, right? So what are the different revenue streams that we can generate? A lot of times we come up with something like this and it changes 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I do all of this at risk. I don't ask for anything. I know the value of this property, and as a civil engineer, I can tell you how to make this work. But what it comes down to is the surrounding community around this going to buy in. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll meet with the economic development councils, we'll meet with the Chamber of Commerce's, we'll identify what the need of this community is. If it's a park, we'll donate a park, right? This is a $36 million project right here. If I have to go spend $100,000 on a park, what's that matter on the grand scheme of things? I get the buy-in of the community, we get to go do what we want. And oh, by the way, we're creating about 50 to 60 full-time employees here on this property, right? However, because I switched this up, we were looking at just this 290 acres as mine. We've switched it. Now it's all 900 acres. We're going to mine first. I had to change this. I can't do the 2.1 million square foot of retail just yet, or industrial, excuse me. I can't do that just yet because I need the aggregates out of the ground. I already have a customer that wants 25 million metric tons in 5 years. So we're going to delay phase 2 by 5 years. We're going to do this one first. This allows me the ability to decrease the amount of money I've got to go raise, decrease the amount of money I have to spend, and maximize my efficiency for that one customer. I've got about 9 million metric tons of overburden on this property, on this side right here. I already have a location to put it. I'm not asking anything for it. We're just going to haul it there just to get it out of our way. I've got some additional overburden over here. We're going to use this to balance that site. In the future, we're going to have an inland port here and probably a landfill there and data centers here and a batch plant up top. I'm in the process of working with the data center. Big group out of California wants it. Essentially simple ground lease, nothing to it. We're going to go design, build it for them. So we get to maximize what we're doing and they get the land. However, what I told them is one of my stipulations is they have to wait 12 months because I need time to go move that overburden, grab the aggregates, and then rebuild that site back up to where it's at. Okay. So all those different nuances, right? All those different nuances that we face on a day-to-day, we are preparing those now and we're setting those expectations with our customers, with our leaseors, so that way we don't have to face them down the road. I'm taking my time. We're doing this very methodically and I'm explaining it this way because of that. Right. And so eventually the warehousing will go over here and that's what it'll become. So typically when I do a rail site, just like all of you, when you go at risk, you want to make sure you give substantial data, but not enough for somebody to come in and take it from you. We give substantial information because we need to make sure we put a value engineer's budget on it. I need to make sure I can go to the market and say, hey, what are you charging price per foot to accommodate this? Now with these numbers down here on the master plan or phase 1, I can go run my budget. I can cross-check it against the market, identify where we're at, and make sure that it is a project we can work with. For those in this room, on the CMA side, this allows you to do your pro forma, right? Without this, you've got nothing because we have to know what our budget is. We have to know what we're working with. This is one of our customers that's out in New Mexico right now. They said if we do this in Montgomery, they're willing to bring their operation to us, or not their operation, excuse me, some of their customer base to us. One of my past experiences, this is where I'm going to deviate a little bit from my experience. Because this is more of a construction-based technical presentation, or that's what you guys asked me to come for. I wanted to get into the meat and then I wanted to explain to you the construction side, and then I'm going to jump back into the Manic side. So this one is DART. I spent 3 years as a seconded employee with DART, and I focus on managing all the engineering reviews for their 262 miles of track. So don't throw stones at me. If you didn't get approval, it's not my fault. No, the reason why I've been able to open the companies I've opened is because I created the network I created, and I couldn't have done that without this role right here. Having the ability to probably talk to every company in this room, one of your employees or somebody that you work with, one of your coworkers. I don't know each of you, but I probably know your companies, and it's because I spent 3 years as a seconded employee. Right. I didn't know I was going to get that out of it when I took the role. I just know they needed a subject matter expert within the rail industry, and I fit the mold. Right. I also helped with the Silver Line. You see that down there. I helped with the Silver Line. I wasn't the lead there, but because of my freight experience and because of my commuter experience, they did leverage that, and I was happy to help. Okay, so I'm showing you this as a contrast: 75,000 track feet, 1,850 track feet. 6 months, 2 years, right? 6 months, we were able to do 75,000 track feet. The reason why? There was a mine or a pit adjacent to this property The gentleman that ran that pit was not able to keep up with what we were doing. And so our contractors took their equipment over there, paid them 4 times what those aggregates were worth, but we saved on all the trucking costs. We saved on all the fuel. We saved on all the headache you can imagine. It was right here. We hauled it over. We shut his pit down in less than 3 months. And that's not to be rude, but the reality is shut his pit down. He made 4 times what that pit was worth. He was grateful. He retired. He's good. We got this built in 6 months because that's what the client demanded. They spent a lot of money to do it, but they got it done. On this one, I'm going to touch on this one in a big way. We ran into a lot of headaches with this one in a bunch of ways. For instance, right here, this green line right there, the client says, no, we own everything on this side of the fence. We own everything on this side. This access road is ours. Okay, great. So we go get the survey. The survey comes back and it looks proper. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. So we design this. Our intention was to put a wall here, right? Because we need to cut, we need to cut in that's right there right now. And I'll show you some pictures here in a minute. These pictures, I'll blow them up here in a minute. But because we need to expand out, I had to make sure we held back this earth right there. So we were going to do a wall. What we ran into is there was a gas line. There's a gas line sitting like right here. And so the wall would have been sitting right on top of the gas line. Big no-no. That wall would have been about right here. And so what we did is we decided to go to 2-1 back slope, and we used what's called a base lock geocell. If you guys have ever seen this, a lot of times what you'll see you'll see it for driveways and parking lots. They'll come in with gravel. It's a honeycomb shape. They'll come in with gravel to put it down and just displaces the load, excuse me. What we did, we put flowable fill instead. 4 inches of flowable fill in the honeycomb structure. You'll see some pictures here in a minute. But that's what's holding all of this back. We've got heavy equipment that was operating up here, and that's why we had to do it that way. So that was before. The center line of the new rail goes right through where this box is. That's the old road. They didn't have any gravel. They didn't have anything there. It was just caliche. It was real rough to drive on, just as heads up. So this picture is taken right behind that wall. So this is what it looks like. You can see how steep that is. You can see this wall. That's a 12-inch thick wall that we had to break apart. The rebar in there was about this big. It was massive. I don't know what used to be here, but this is the old CEMEX plant out in Fort Worth. You guys might know that. But they had something really big there. So this is during construction, right? So as we start going through construction and we realize, okay, gas line company goes up. Uh-oh, what do we do? We had to go and make some changes. So in between this to this, there's about a year difference. And the reason why is because the utility companies came out. The landowner, we had our equipment on the property. We had it up here on this access road right here. Landowner comes in and fences it off. We show up, we're like, what's going on, guys? Evidently, the adjacent landowner owns that, not our customer, right? Not my client. And so we had to go back, and they spent 6 months going back and forth on a legal dispute. They ended up paying a bunch of money to open this back up so we could get access to our equipment and finish. What we had to explain to them, and this is the real kicker, they had a massive drainage problem over here. See how high that goes? They sit up here. All that water comes down. They were doing a whole bunch of development up here. They had a total disregard for everything downstream. So it wasn't until we sat down across the table from them and I explained to them, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to get a lawsuit and you're going to have to go fix yours, which inevitably you're going to have to fix theirs, or you can just come to an agreement here and let us in, let us finish, and we'll fix the drainage for you. Right? We'll be able to absorb what you're saying to us. So that's what we did. We got them to agree. Okay. The gas line I was talking about, originally it wasn't an issue because the easement that we had called out in the survey was fine with regard to the wall. The problem is they jumped out of their easement towards the rail by about 10 feet. Those easements are only 20 foot wide. Center line, they missed their easement by 15 feet, right? And so it was very frustrating. A lot of different nuances that came up, but it was a great learning experience. Just like with DART, I took that, I built my network. With this one, I had a lot of learning experiences, and I realized it doesn't matter how perfect you think you are. It doesn't matter. You're going to get thrown curveballs. The most perfect project you can ever have is one that's never built, right? A project that is never built, you'll never know the headaches that could have come out of it. So this one, you can see the geocell going in here. You can see the flowable fill that we're pouring. There it is again. So that was just a very unique solution to a problem that came up. And it was actually presented to us by the contractor. They used it out in Utah, and so they threw it over here. We looked at concrete cloth and some other options. Concrete cloth was just too thin. It didn't have enough weight to it. Out here with our big storms that we get, that would have kicked that straight out. We needed the weight of that 4 inches of concrete. And this is what it looks like when we got done. So that's them testing that switch, making sure that it's to spec. That's actually a surveyor shooting it, making sure that we hit the right elevation. We ended up damming this up when we did the project because we had to mitigate the drainage so we can go do the construction. So that's us opening it up, looking back and then looking forward. That's your rail. That's us sweeping off the ballast. That's your hydro mulch. And then this is the finished product. Going back to the Manic site. So for the Manic site, these are some of the customers that have already committed. They said, hey, if you have operations in the area, we would love to do business with you. Again, having a short line, having a transload, it allows us the opportunity to jump in and out of different markets. It allows us to grab large volume, right? It allows us to take trucks off the road. I can fit four to five semis in every rail car. Right? You want to talk about a big savings for a local market, you start telling them that. You start saying, hey, instead of putting your capital improvement dollars there, let's put them here. Let's focus on what we can do with you guys right here. This is how we work. This is from a transload perspective. I didn't bring the short line in. I'm just showing you the transload. So we establish our customer again, locate where we're going to be taking it. We become, or they hire Alabama Transload as the person to move their, or transload their goods. And for those that don't know transload is essentially truck to rail, rail to truck, or our aggregates going from rail to barge. That's transload. And then we can show the cost savings. Once we're done, we can show that cost savings and we can show what the betterment that we've given the community and the economy in the area. These are the different services we offer. Organically, we have to have these. This is something that in order for us to move goods, we've got to have the scale, the trucking, in-house switching, and the storage. A lot of people don't know this, but as far as rail is concerned, you make a lot of money parking rail cars. Rail cars can't be parked on a flat surface out in the parking lot, right? We've got to park them on rail. So that's where you start seeing an issue with supply and demand with the bulk commodities. You start seeing that because everything is backlogged. A lot of times, most people don't know this. A lot of times what happens during Christmas time, all of our rail cars, they go west. They go west throughout the first 7, 8, 9 months of the year. When they go west, they have to come back to the east, right? All those goods are coming into ports in California and then they're shifting east. The problem is everything gets bottlenecked because there's not enough rail. And so that's why we have a supply and demand issue. And that's why sometimes cost of goods go way up, is because they're stuck in New Mexico. They're stuck in Albuquerque because that's the biggest storage yard that you can, that's before they come into Texas, right? And so this, by having this facility, it allow us to help mitigate some of those. We can take everything in bulk prior to that event happening. And we can still service all of our customers, all the big players, the Amazons of the world. Different services we offer and different materials we handle. And then the project economics, from the project economics, I'm gonna slow down on this one and explain this a little bit. So this is something that would have never worked. I put this up there because when I first started looking at this without the commodities, without the aggregates, I was trying to find a way to make the rail work. And I was trying to force the rail in there. I was trying to identify the revenue streams that we could generate just with the rail, not the warehousing, not the aggregates. I walked in and I put this one up here for a reason. Over the last 12 months, I had to build my investor pool. And I don't know what the shortest meeting anyone in here has ever had, but I can tell you mine was 10 seconds. I had a lunch meeting set up and I take a deck real similar to this one. And I had real similar numbers. It was multifamily. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, very patiently waiting for this gentleman to show up. Gentleman shows up. I've got the marketing material in front of me, the pitch deck in front of me. I go to, he takes it from me. He goes straight to the economic slide. He looks at this and he says, these two numbers. He didn't even say anything. Excuse me. He didn't even say anything. He looked at these two numbers. That's all he looked at. 10 seconds. Got up, left. We shook hands. By the time we got done shaking hands, he was out. I was like, what the heck? That's not common. Like you just can't do that. And so I called him later and I said, John Doe, why'd you do that? And he said, you needed to learn a lesson. And he said, I didn't have time to waste. I said, okay. And he said, I didn't mean to be so abrupt. I didn't mean to be a, what, but he said, this is something that will always stick with you. And he said, from a private investor, we care about 18 to 20% IRR. I care about a 2 multiplier. And he said, and I want a 5-year extra clause. I'm not going to sit in this market for 26 and a half years just to get these returns. It's wasting my money. It's wasting my time. And he's like, until you realize what you're pitching, you have no business pitching it. And as harsh a truth as that is, it is reality. That is the truth. I wouldn't want somebody bringing a property to me saying, I've got a great property, you need to look at this, and all of a sudden I look at it and it's a 20% incline, and they're trying to put a single family house in, right? With an unrealistic budget. If they come to me and they say I have an endless amount of money, by all means, let's do it. But if they come to me and they say, I got 300K and I want to build a 2,000 square foot home and I've got this to deal with, it's impossible. That's what I just showed him in layman terms, in terms that I understand. Took me a minute to realize that. I was wrong by that one for a minute. And until I swallowed my pride and realized what he said and the value I could gain from that, I didn't realize it. But the other thing he mentioned is the 3.49 multiplier. That's unrealistic for a private investor. They're not going to stay that long. They're going to stay 5 years. If I don't run this model at 5, maybe 7 years, he's not going to get anywhere close to that. So what we're doing now on this project, because we have the purchase agreement, and I'm grateful he did that because I learned a valuable lesson. What we're doing now on this one, because I have the purchase agreement for 25 million metric tons, that one sheet of paper on the lowest end possible is worth over $175 million over 5 years. So I no longer need a private investor. What I need is I need a bank. I need a bank that's going to give me an 8.5%. And the only way for me to do that, because again, I don't have well-established companies that are 20, 30 years old with a resume through the roof. What I need is I need those customers to agree that they believe in what we're doing. I need those customers to agree or believe in me, believe in what we're trying to pull off. And by doing that, they're going to open it up and they're going to say, here's my contract. So I can go to the bank and I can say, follow the money. Bypass me, bypass my customer, go straight to the buyer. This is where the aggregates are going. Then I can go to the bank and I can say, here's how we're saving money along the way. One of the main benefits to the way I've structured this is I essentially created a glorified profit share. I don't have to take my profits early. I own those companies. At the end of the day, I'm going to make money as a developer. Why would I want to pay interest on a property that I'm going to own? I'm going to own the land. I'm going to own the infrastructure. Why take money prematurely? Why take profits prematurely so I can just pay the interest on it? So by explaining that to the banks, we've got 2 banks now that are opening it up. They're giving us a $50 million line of credit, right? So a whole different way of thinking. Came out of the box, caught everybody off guard. We don't need private money anymore. We're going straight to the banks. And we're doing it because of the aggregates. Again, when I was rail centric, rail's only worth what rail's worth. If you don't have the customers, that yard's not going to do anything, right? The amount of money I spend to build the rail is essentially the valuation initially with no customers. But now that we're moving the aggregates, we have that customer. That's what it's predicated off of. So the economic growth. And the other thing is private investors are going to want upside. The private investor I was telling you about, he wanted 50%. We did all the work. He wanted 50% of the LP. Rightfully so. He's bringing all the money. No problem there if we need it. This one, we're getting an 8.5%, not going to go any upside. I'll have this paid off in less than 3.5 years because of the 8.5%. So again, we go to the economic development councils, we go to the chamber of commerce, we try to identify what the needs of the community are. We explain these 2 slides that you're going to see right here are what we take to them. They don't necessarily care about all the stuff up to this point. They care about this. They care about the job creation. They care about attracting business, tax revenues, right? Infrastructure, supply chain efficiency, reducing that truck congestion I was explaining to you guys. That's a big one here in North Texas, right? That's a big one because of I-45, how packed it is. I don't know if you guys know this, but they're the autonomous trucks. As engineers, you guys will appreciate this. The autonomous trucks that are being tested in New Jersey. New Jersey used to be our guinea pig for transportation. A lot of people don't know this. Texas is now that guinea pig. And it's because of our political views. I don't need to know anybody's in this room. At the end of the day, the state level, those trucks are being tested on I-45 right now. If you see those semi trucks and they got cameras up on the top of the mirrors, that's an autonomous truck. If you drive by, you won't be able to see. You can't really see in there very well if you're in a car, but if you're in a truck and you drive by, there's nobody in there. Those are being tested on our roads right now. Yeah, it's real. It's happening. And so what we're trying to say is, hey, truck congestion, we're reducing the truck congestion to make everybody safer, right? It's better for us for the environment to decrease the amount of trucks. It also makes everybody else in here safer because that's less autonomous trucks we're gonna have on the road by putting it on the rail. The last mile is really the only reason you should be trucking it. There's no reason to be trucking it from Dallas to Houston if it's a large volume. We should always be putting on rail. And so explaining that to the communities, explaining what the benefits are, that's when we typically get people behind us. The environmental impact I just kind of mentioned, reduce carbon emissions. That's a big one, has been, always will be. I think everybody can agree to that to some degree. Market accessibility and competitive edge. By us putting that facility there, initially we're going to create 50, 60 full-time employees on that site. Eventually, once we have the 2.1 million square foot of warehousing, which we will have, we're going to create a lot more jobs. But on top of that, what it's going to do is it's going to open the door for other companies like the Amazons to come in there and store all their goods, which is going to increase the amount of employees, increase the amount of houses, increase the amount of multifamily, increase everything that goes with it. I think some of you guys heard me when I first started this presentation. We're in every major market. I didn't do that intentionally. I've always been industrial based. I've always built industrial rail yards my entire career. I got into the single family, multifamily retail and commercial because it's a spinoff of the yards. And again, I'm tired of handing stuff away to somebody else so they can take advantage of it when I could just do it with my team. All I've done is I've surrounded myself with quality professionals that know what they're doing and they're well established in their specific industries. They're subject matter experts in what they do. And so this right here, what we can do is we can go talk to the economic development councils, and if they say, hey, we need more housing. Okay, perfect. We'll bring that team out here as well, right? Catalyst for urban development, same thing, what I just mentioned. And then you guys can read that. It's a well-designed transloading facility can transform a city into a more attractive location for businesses and improve local infrastructure, benefiting both the economy and residents. Sums up what I just said. You guys have any questions?
Various sources of revenue of clients.
Oh, hold on. I think that was right there.
Can you put like percentage wise, what do you get out of each of these components?
Sure.
Generally.
So this changed very, very much. This was the master plan. We intended to do the rail first. The rail, this fits 918 rail car spots for storage. That's a 7,000 track loop. One unit train is 120 cars, is 6,800 feet. Okay. And so we have to have 7,000 foot in order to fit a unit train. I'm going to move 2 unit trains out of here a week. Uh-oh. Let's see if we can run through this faster. I don't think you got unplugged. Okay. Hold on one second. See if it lets me go back. Yeah, no, it kicked it off. There we go. So when we switched this up and we became more aggregates focused, we decided to switch this up. So phase one is focused on the aggregates, so the rail for the aggregates. Because I'm going to come in and I'm going to mine this side. So Old Summer Road is the highway. It's a highway, but we call it Old Summer Road. So we're going to mine everything on this side first. We're going to start up here. Okay. I have to get that 9 million tons of overburden off in order for me to get to the good side. This is what we care about. Everybody in this room, I think, understands that. And so I had to switch it up. I had to focus on the aggregates for phase one. Phase two is the rail storage. So phase two becomes this. So revenue stream, we're going to start with the aggregates the first 5 to 7 years. Sand and gravel, we already have a contract for. We know where the overburden is going. I still have silicates on this site, and I still have an abundance of sand that we can move. And so as far as the different revenue streams, first 7 years, aggregates. The next 43 years, we're going to expand this rail operation. Rail service life with minimal maintenance, 50 years. That's why it's so expensive. If you guys saw that economic slide, this is a $36 million proposal right here. Just this phase with what I'm showing you, $36 million. Yeah, no, not the equipment. So with the contract from my customer, we're paying for the operation of the mining through that. So just the land and infrastructure, $36 million. Good question. The equipment's going to be about 10 to 12 million. And the equipment's going to be trashed by the time we're done with it. Excuse the language, but the reality that there is no salvage value in mining equipment when you're mining that fast. There's about 14 foot of overburden. To give you guys perspective, I keep saying 9 million tons. There's about 14 foot across 900 acres that we got to pull out on average. So you guys can imagine what that looks like. About this room. Think about that. So revenue one, aggregates. Revenue two, rail storage. Number three, logistics, the warehousing. For the data center is actually going to come faster. The data center now has pushed up here. We already know who that's going to be. I can't announce that yet because we're under NDAs, but I will tell you it's a big name. And that data center, it's going to come right underneath. We'll actually do the data center before we do the rail storage now because we have that customer. Dock access, we'll do a temporary dock. Temporary docks I can do in 6 weeks. Long-term docks, a lot longer. We already have the permits pre-established. We just have to go submit it underneath my company's name, right? Leave the domestic press state. Take to a domestic inland port because then I can take advantage of that 35 foot depth. Right? Groundwater is about 25 foot. So that's what we're doing. We're maximizing from a revenue perspective, we're maximizing what we have to offer. So that's what we chose to do. Any other questions? Any of these? Okay, great. All right. Are there any geologists in the room? Anybody interested in silicate? Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much, Logan, for this presentation. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but that was a very awesome presentation. I learned a lot. We're grateful to have you, and hopefully, we can see you around at some other meetings. So you guys can give a round of applause. All right, and just a few announcements for the Construction Institute. We do have our student competition coming up in July it's in Chicago. If your company is interested in sponsoring or you want to know more about that competition, please come see me. Also, we're always looking for more speakers for technical sessions. Whether you want to speak here, we have CECon coming up in September, and the CI Summit is going to be in San Antonio next year, and we're already starting to plan for that. So if you're interested in speaking at any of those, please let me know. Again, I'm Nala Williams. You can email us on the Dallas website and find our contact information. All right, thank you guys for joining and enjoy the keynote.